We're going to look at this from three angles, and these come from the real world, as Georgia was mentioning before, in our real world experience in the last 3-4 years, digging deeply and working on the technology side. One is really about municipalities and regions. We see quite often that even on the simple post-consumer textile collection end, collection needs to improve, but it can be really, really difficult to pinpoint how or where can quantities be increased, how can quality issues be addressed, and any number of other factors there. What's needed is to really understand specifically how the infrastructure is functioning today, how it's improving over time, and based on what specific interventions. So we'll take a little bit of a look at the municipality use case, and keep in mind as well that we can take this to a regional level as well. It's not limited to one municipality. So municipality and collection textile management angle. Then we'll take a look from the multi-stakeholder project perspective, and we'll take a look from an innovation and testing perspective. This is the first tool that we actually built and formalized. This is our, we call it local authority software as a service, but this is essentially the tool that we have for municipalities and regions. So again, put yourself in the shoes of, I'm a municipality or a regional authority. Textile collection needs to improve, but it's really difficult to pinpoint where are the issues that we're experiencing and what solutions might work. One of the reasons this is difficult to do is because this is also a multi-stakeholder process. You have a collector, a sorter, the public authority, and everybody needs the same version of truth. So what we do is we take data from, for example, official statistics, official national reports, and so forth. And then we also get data from collectors and sorters to put together this overview for everybody to align around. And I'm going to just show you a couple of the, well, personally my favorite features, but a couple of the most important things we do. You can see some of these key performance indicators that help kind of give an overarching viewpoint of how things are functioning. You can see month by month, as long as the data is available in this way, you can see trends in collection performance. All of these little windows you can click and expand. You can roll over to get more information. And what I'm showing you now is the public authority view. So you can see all of the details, all the fine details. But what we can also offer is for collectors, for sorters, views that are limited to what they're allowed to see. So for example, if you have 3 collectors functioning in a specific region, they probably shouldn't see exact collection points and exact quantities of their competitors, but maybe they need to see some of these aggregated volumes and so forth. So very, very flexible tool that we have. You can also look at how textiles are being collected. So whether it's from a container network or reuse rooms, curbside collection, it doesn't really matter. And we have a couple of levels of this. So if you click in to the collection container network, you can see this example has a lot of different types of collection containers, even above ground, below ground, some that we just don't know, the data supplier doesn't know, etc. So a lot you can do with those visuals. This one is specifically is my favorite. I love the map. So when you click in to this little map in the upper right-hand corner, you get all kinds of interesting detail. In some cases, and specifically for all the Dutch municipalities, you can see population density. If these statistics are available somewhere, then we can load them in, even if you're not in the Netherlands, by the way. We've done that in some other regions. So you can see an overlay of population density and collection points and how each of these collection points is performing. So you can start to get a sense as a municipality, but also as a collector or a sorter, is the network, are we serving the highest population dense areas? How are those collection points performing? If you move a collection point, then over time you can see how the performance changes as well. So it gives this overarching perspective on what's the infrastructure doing. If I make an intervention, then what's happening? So this is the these are the highlights of the collection overview. Then we also look at the flows of those materials themselves. And what we can see, this is based on data from sorters, we can see all of these different streams about where these materials actually go from the sorting facility. What you can see here is based on the Dutch EPR targets, to some degree, Dutch EPR targets and how those outbound streams are reported. But to some degree, these are customizable in terms of, well, what sort of outflows do you want to see? These are also, we love a good sand key on your team, and these sand keys you can move around and say click, roll over, and see the different perspectives that are more useful for you and your team. And then the last thing I'll show you here, lots more that's available, but the last thing I'll show you on the municipality side is the targets. So again, we've set these to the Dutch EPR targets, which is why you see prepared for reuse and recycling, total reuse, et cetera, et cetera. We've added collection because to us, that's always a critically important thing to track. But again, to some degree, these are customizable. So if the Dutch EPR targets, which is our default, if this isn't really so applicable to you, then if the data exists and there's a credible methodology to calculate a target, we can certainly do that as well. So we display them in a number of different ways, and I'll just do a quick roll through. So you can see the different ways it's possible to track these targets. You can switch units on a lot of these things. So you can look at kilos per person, hard kilos, percentage against a specific target. And then, as Georgia mentioned, everything is exportable. So you can also take it out of the system. So the next use case to consider is the multi-stakeholder project. So if you've ever been in one of these multi-stakeholder projects, especially developing new processes and materials flows, you might recognize I'm a project partner, I'm wasting way too much time digging through emails for materials and testing information. And by the way, making matters worse, I get so many duplicate data requests from different partners or work packages. It's really a drain on my time and resources. So we have a data hub for projects and multi-stakeholder collaborations. And it's really a simple batch tracking. Well, not so simple. Sorry, Georgia. It's really a nice batch tracking tool. Everything is based on materials flows and chaining together materials flows, attaching concrete pieces of information that are useful on the project setting. There are two different levels to this specific tool. The first is from an individual project partner perspective, and each partner can see in their own inventory, their batch inventory, what is an active material or what's an active batch within their inventory in the project today. It essentially centralizes all of the batches that get created that are still active. You can also see through the Batch Explorer all the historic batches. So if you received something from a partner, you did something to it and you sent it to someone else, it'll still be in your Batch Explorer so you can see a full history, but it isn't going to be in your inventory any longer because it's no longer sitting in your facility. So we have two different levels of being able to see what your batch activity was throughout the course of a project. And they're, again, really simple tools. You create a batch, you can add descriptions, add quantities are required. Of course, that's how materials flows work. You can connect it to different partners within your project. You can add it from existing stock. You can attach different types of documents in different formats. So we've struck this balance between being very flexible about the type of information you can add and how you can add it without adding too much complexity and too many requirements for you have to do this and you have to add information here and there. So striking a balance between the sort of minimum data requirements and then being robust enough to handle a lot of detail. So you can create batches in an inventory, or in your inventory. You can also then click into individual batches and see all kinds of different information, essentially centralizing everything that happened within the project on your specific batch. And let me clarify that statement a little bit. Georgia talked a little bit about keeping your information secure. And one of those things is controlling how much of the information about your processes, your materials, other partners see. So that can be set in any way that the project needs it to be set. So here, the way that we default is that you can see obviously everything related to the processes and the materials that you have. And when you send it on to the next stakeholder down the line, then they get access to that information. But it doesn't keep passing down and down and down if that's not already set up in permissions. So very controllable who sees what for which purposes. Then that's all built into the software. The other thing that is possible here is that you can run processes on different batches. So I have some material in my inventory. Maybe I'm shredding it. You can track everything that happens to a specific batch of material, split it into sub batches, send it to different partners. It's all here and chains all of these flows of goods together. The other cool thing that you can see is the different flows of materials between you and your suppliers and your essentially buyers, or who's accepting materials on the other side. So you also get a nice draggable SandKey visual to show everything that's going on. Lots of different information here available on an individual project partner level. There's also, we call it an auditor view, but if you're a project lead or a work package lead and you should have access to more information, that's also possible here. And so this auditor view allows you to see all of the flows between all of the partners, all of the active inventory, all of the historic batches that have been flowing through a project. So very, very flexible, controllable access and different ways to be able to centralize that information within a project and take some of the inefficiencies out. The third use case that we want to talk about a little bit, and I'll be very brief because I know, Hannah, we're clicking along on the timeline here, is innovation and testing. So this is very often related to projects themselves, but this use case is if you think about being a project partner or being a project work package lead, something like this, often what happens is you get some process, some test result, and it shows the potential to scale. But oh no, we've lost track of what happened upstream to this batch of materials to get it to this process in the right format so that we know how to replicate all of this. We can do efficient reporting on what worked and what didn't. So one of the things that we do in our system is we can actually attach test samples to all of these batches. And so everything is connected in the backend. So what I've done here is I've selected one batch. We'll create a test sample out of it. We're going to send it to, we're going to send it to ourselves for testing. And you create a test sample. I can get the test sample, I can run the test, I can attach test results to it in a number of different ways. I can indicate a pass, fail, and conclusive, any number of different pieces of information. You attach it all to that test, to that batch, and then when you click in to the item in your inventory, then you can see all of the test results. You can see the test that happens, you can see the test results, you can see all of the documents that are attached to that match. There's not one attached here, but it centralizes everything all together in one place. And so I hope that with these couple of examples of concrete use cases and some of the features and functionality of our tools, you can see how we are starting to make data more secure, more efficient, and more useful for regions and municipalities, but also for multi-stakeholder collaborations.